When you was in the Klan, did you ever hear of people burning crosses? Is that a real thing?
Yep. About one over here about 3 or 4 months ago, or 2 months ago. Probably tall as that tree.
Welcome to Virginia.
So I'm currently in Virginia making a documentary on racism.
Sometimes they used to come down by our house and they would have sheets over the face. Had white sheets all on the face.
The Ku Klux Klan all over the world.
In this documentary, we'll be focusing on the town of Danville.
Danville, it was terrible. The police had beat him with a stick and looked like you could see Bruce's brain.
A historically significant stronghold of the Confederate South.
We legally separated, we were invaded.
The war of northern aggression.
The people in and around this town have a lot of pride in their beliefs.
I resent what they did.
Regardless of which side of the aisle they're on.
If they just want to talk about the history and this situation, would you be down for that?
No.
The debate has persisted for almost 200 years, and as America's culture war hits its peak, the town of Danville is beginning to boil over.
They like throw it up in you. You had me in slavery. Every time you go to prison, you know, you're at every 5 minutes. But I said, I didn't have you in slavery. I said, I didn't have nothing to do with it. I said, I wasn't even born when you was in slavery. If I had to kill someone to stay in it.
You have to kill someone to stay in the Klan.
Most times, yeah.
I think that the majority of the white people in this country are racist.
I think we all need to come together as a nation and work together instead of pulling each other apart.
The cops were threatening to arrest us for protecting our monument. Those people would do vandalism, which is against the law. See, everywhere we go, they break the law. We're the ones that get attacked by the cops.
The flags we're flying are about sort of love and peace and acceptance, and theirs are completely the opposite.
Do your research. Don't listen to what this college tells you. They ruined Washington State, Oregon State. Now they're going to Texas and Austin, ruin everywhere they lead, they bring their crap.
We're currently in Danville, Virginia. This is where slavery ended. This is where Jefferson Davis came and fled after America had conquered Richmond. He was the last, general fighting for the South and the lead and the head. On April the 10th, they had heard here that General Lee had surrendered. And hearing that news, they decided to push on further south when they heard that America was coming here. And we've come back in 2025 to see if racism is still prevalent in Danville, Virginia. I was told this is where bodies were often dumped. People in the Klan had to do initiations to join and stay in the Klan, and one of them was murdering black people, and this is exactly where I was told bodies were being dumped. Larry, what's the worst memory do you have when it comes to racism? Is there something that a story around racism that you'll never forget?
Nope. Yeah. 8 or 10 black people on a white man out there. And I got into it with it. And he got this car, the white person did, and left. I got into it and had to stand and fight him.
How did that end?
Knots all over you. Knots all over you.
Nuts.
With guns, everything.
Sometimes they used to come down by our house, we were so afraid, and they would have sheets over the face. Had white sheets all on the face where you couldn't see who it was. Somebody said probably your insurance man or whoever, but you couldn't see that face. They would march and do that because that scared the black people, scared of them. The Klansmen, they were scared of the Klansmen.
Did you ever meet or see them yourself?
Oh yeah, I know some of them. We knew some of them. We knew who was on them sheets. Mm-hmm.
And do you think they're still the Klan about today?
It's back. I think the Klan is back, but it's quiet. Young people don't.
Yeah, young people not into.
Oh no, you better. If you're a Klanman, then you better keep
You're
it quiet. Yeah, I wouldn't try to be. Cause
there's some hidden one. They're hidden.
They're hidden. Yeah, you better
There are
not.
a few hidden ones that still have that same.
I got it. It's somewhere around. Yeah.
Now that you left the Klan, have you still got the? What was the outfit? The hoods.
Nope.
Did you ever own the Klan's outfit?
Yeah.
Do people still wear that today if they're in the Klan?
Yeah, go right over here on Saturday night and you'll see about 300 over there. They come from California, all over the world. They put the Ku Klux Klan does, all over the world. And they all come over on motorcycles.
They congregate in right where we're at?
No, on the next road.
But they come from all over to the next road?
They come all over the country.
I'm from London. I'm making a film in Virginia about the Confederacy. We just came from Kentucky. I believe there was a Klan group there, but we didn't get connected to them. And if I'm transparent, I've been told the Klan are here. And I'm trying to make that connection.
I ain't liberty to say, but you're on the right road.
That's exactly what I've been told. That's exactly what I've been told.
Yeah. The guy here, I think he's head of the Klan.
That's exactly what I've been told. Do you think the Klan would speak to me? So I'm trying to speak to the Klan myself. You think they would speak to me?
I doubt it. If you've ever wanted around one of them, he wouldn't let you come in his yard to start with. And then he'd probably get dinner for you and he'd hunt you down.
Would you say they're dangerous people?
Yeah, they're dangerous.
Hey, Larry, when you said they would try to do something bad, what kind of things were the Klan doing in your time?
To kill you.
I guess I'm trying to speak to him and make a connection to him.
Oh yeah.
But I just don't know. I've been exactly told that information that you just gave me.
Yeah.
That he's on this road and he's deep in the woods.
Yes.
But obviously without being direct, I'm assuming there's only one house here that's deep in the woods.
Oh, there's a couple houses.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
But yeah, are you friends with him?
Yeah, I'm friends with him.
I would be more than grateful if he's happy to have that conversation. I can, if you go on.
I'll tell you what, I'll give you my phone number and I can make some calls, but you just call and I can give you some information.
Are you a part of the Klan, if you don't mind me asking?
No.
I had so much trouble out of black people. It's pitiful. He killed my buddy up here and I emptied a gun in front of the car. 7 of them and 1 of me.
And what happened?
Well, he killed my friend. And then I tried to kill them. 7 of them. Another thing about the black, look like to me they can get more than a white man can.
How do you mean? So,
like more help on Social Security, food stamps, and stuff like that. And they just lay around and have kids right on top of another so they get more money. And I've heard them talk about that.
Hi there, what was the name?
Ryan.
Ryan, Aaron, pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I came here from North Carolina, Greensboro and Raleigh, and this is probably one of the most racist places I've been in my, well, it definitely is the most racist place I've been in my entire life. I've also been called, slurs for being a homosexual here, which never happened to me prior to getting to Danville. And that's in the last 2 years. I do know that it's known as the last stronghold of the Confederacy and that Robert E. Lee was taken down here and these people hold on to that. Just a lot of ignorance, intentional ignorance here, and doesn't seem to want to change, so.
What was the name?
My name is Jamie Wilkerson.
Aaron.
Nice to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you.
My opinion of the Confederate flag is it's part of history. Back then, it did have its symbolization for the Confederacy. It is a part of history that we cannot go back and undo. I don't think that it stands for hatred or what some people think. I just think it's part of history. We need to move on and learn from it. Other than that, I look at it as just a flag, a part of history.
What does it mean to you?
To me, it means it's separated the Confederacy from the Union back during the Civil War. That way you knew who was on what side and who wasn't. But to me, it's just a flag nowadays.
And when you see the flag, I guess, as someone who...
Hate, fully hate. There's nothing but hate to it. And it's offensive. And, you know, if you come on, I believe it's Saturday mornings, it might be Sunday mornings, they celebrate the Confederacy. So you can see the hate that's here.
Every Saturday morning, we have a group of two different groups of flaggers. And they're well heard and they're represented, and the two groups, you know, don't have any friction between them.
So it's Saturday morning in Danville. Outside Sutherland House, we have protesters pro and for the Confederacy and the flag, whether it should be here or not. I'm going to try and speak to a few people now from both sides of the party and see what they have to say.
All right. Hey, Brian. Brian, pleasure to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Oh, basically, I was hoping if I could speak to someone on this side and that side.
If you talk to me first, they'll be less likely to talk to you. So
you can go over there first and
maybe go over to them first.
The Victors always lie about everything. And I don't know why they've been here a year. We have nothing to do with them. I don't know why they're flagging up there against us. The lady here is an activist. Those are her people over there.
Oh, the lady that runs it or something?
Yeah.
So we do have those two sides of history here that we like to interpret. And we're working on more improving our exhibits. So you'll see as you go around.
I mean, the only reason they came out here was against us because they were held, you know, down with Trump and Trump with the X. It's, you know, nothing to do with that.
Fruitcakes.
Like, you know,
They're trying to save the country money and get things done right, and they don't like it. They don't want crime to go down. It's like, well, y'all ain't done nothing about crime. Look at the inner cities.
I would love to hear, you know, why they're.
I mean, it'd be nice to hear what they had to say.
I'm wrong. Would you ever be down to have a conversation with one of them? Like, say, because obviously I can see you're like the representative member here. I guess if they ever just want to talk about the history and this situation, would you be down for that?
No. We fly a variety of different flags, sort of different colors, different all that sort of stuff to imprint that we're different than them. Part of this is just the message to the Black population that we're here specifically to counter what they've been messaging for the last 10 years.
We legally separated. We were invaded. They invaded us. The Revolutionary War was a different war. They won this country against a government. We didn't do that. We separated.
We still do have some protesters that show up on Saturdays to protest taking down that flag.
Are you allowed to fly the flag in the town of Danville?
The Confederate flag? No. Actually, they passed an ordinance. There's only on private property you can, because there are a few. I have seen a few Confederate flags flying on private property, but not on any type of public space. And this is a public space. If you're flying a Confederate flag today, you're not educated enough. And people will say this flag represents my heritage, this flag, you know, but does it really? I mean, have you really thought about it? The Confederacy lasted for roughly 5 years.
So when people say that heritage is about trying to keep slaves?
Man, they think that we supposed to be slaves. Like, that shit crazy. Like I said, it's normal, like that shit is overlooked at this point.
Yeah. Like, if someone made a good point in American history, it spans over 400 years.
Yeah.
But the Civil War is only probably less than 5 years or about 5 years.
Right.
So why are people so fixated on that brief point in time? Surely that the rebel flag just doesn't define all of white culture in America, right? Like, why is it that flag that defines heritage?
That war, man, for the slaves, for slavery, bro.
People have in their mind that this 5 years time frame is their heritage. That it seems to be, this is their only heritage. You know, when you have, hundreds of years of just American history. Why, what is it about the Civil War and this part of history that people feel so connected to?
Ed, so I'm here from the UK making a documentary on the history of the Confederacy.
Yeah.
What does the flag mean to you?
That flag, it means representation, defiance against tyranny.
And how long have you been coming here? Because I know you're part of the flaggers.
How long we've been coming here? 10 years, 11, about 11 years.
Ed, why did you decide to start doing this?
Well, I sat at home one day being a doofus, and I just started reading about it. I said, well, that can't be right. So I joined in the fray.
And how did you feel when the flag got taken down outside?
I really didn't know what was going on. But the more I read and the more I learned, we're being lied on.
And Ed, why do you think they took it down?
Because they don't know their tails from first base.
What does that mean?
They don't know any history.
What would you say to people, I guess, who say the flag offends them? What would your response be to that?
So you ain't doing enough studying. So you need to look at the U.S. flag. People just don't study. They take for granted that these history teachers in these colleges know something, and they're terrible teaching history.
And Ed, what would you say to people who say they feel that the flag has connotations to racism?
I tell them they don't know what they're talking about. I said, you haven't read much, have you? Buddy, you got to understand that when the war of northern aggression was over, they had laid us waste. They laid the South waste. Even to this day, I'm 73 years old, and I resent what they did to us.
Hi there, what was the name?
Brian Hale.
Aaron, pleasure to meet you, Brian.
Nice to meet you.
So I'm from the UK. I'm here doing a documentary on Virginia within the history of the Confederacy and racism. What do you feel or think when you see a Confederate flag?
What do I think?
Morgan & Morgan was founded after John Morgan saw how easy a serious injury case could be mishandled and how families without money or influence could be left behind. The film was built with one mission: fight for the people. When you're injured because of someone else's negligence, you might be up against institutions with more resources, more experience and more leverage than you. Insurance companies aren't there to protect individuals. They're there to limit risk and reduce payouts. I know a little about preparing for high-stakes situations myself. There's a reason I always travel with 2 cameramen and 2 SD cards in my camera. Just like there's a reason Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury law firm. Equipment fails, conditions change, and things go wrong. When the stakes are high, experience, preparation, and backup matter. For more than 35 years, Morgan & Morgan has fought to get their clients the compensation they deserve. To date, they've recovered over $30 billion with over 1,000 lawyers and more than 100 offices nationwide. They have the scale, experience, and resources to take on powerful insurance companies when the system is working against you. Not all law firms are the same. Hire the wrong one and you may be beat before you even start. If you're ever injured, you can check out Morgan & Morgan. Their fee is free unless you win. For more information, you can go to forthepeople.com/taboo.
Tough question, because I find it both sort of there's a gullibility to it. I also think that there's a conditioning that a lot of people have been raised around that and taught that their heritage is tied up within that flag. But ultimately, I see it as a symbol of hate, and those that fly it as people that want to take our country backwards.
Would you say that's a generalization for everyone who flies that flag?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's one of those things, the former career, there's a lot of people that will say, well, I'm kind of grateful that they fly the flag because I know exactly where they stand on issues. So there's some that are appreciative of it because they get to avoid the racism, or just know that what they're dealing with is going to be that. So in some ways it is a blatant symbol of sort of hate and of segregation. And it's one of those things that the number of people that were lynched sort of with the idea of that flag flying in the background is too unpalatable for me to want to be around.
The economy was based on enslaving people, but they wanted to change that narrative, and they were amazingly successful at doing that. They managed to rewrite history books. So if you look at a history book from the 1940s, 50s, it will say things like slavery wasn't that bad, or the Civil War was fought over states' rights, not slavery. So it's referred to usually as the lost cause, the myth of the lost cause. And people believed it. It was it was a way to change history, to really rewrite what happened. They had this idea that they portrayed that enslaved people didn't have it that bad. That they were, happy to be enslaved. And these kind of ideas still persist today, though, because it was so successful, unfortunately successful. People today that I know are still believe that that slavery was not the cause of the Civil War. And so I'll ask them, well, what was the cause? And they'll say states' rights. The states' rights to own other people.
Can you tell me what the Confederate flag means to you?
Well, the Confederate flag, to me, means honor, courage, integrity. Basically, it was because of our ancestors and the organization that I'm in. Our ancestors they fought for their land.
Randy, what would you say to people who feels it has connotations to racism? What would you?
It absolutely does not. It absolutely does not. Yeah, there have been individuals that have used that Confederate flag the wrong way, but it really don't. I mean, it represents the South and what our ancestors stood for 160 years ago. In this organization, you have to be a direct descendant to join this organization, Sons of the Confederate Veterans. And it was my third great-grandfather, Charles, that fought for the Confederacy. He was actually in the Confederate Navy. His brother was in the Confederate Army of Northern Virginia. So I had actually two ancestors, my third great-grandfather and his brother, my third great-uncle. There's certain individuals that misuse the flag and what it represents. That's what I feel. Like I said, the flag to us, it means it's honor, integrity, courage, and really honoring our ancestors. I think throughout the years, throughout generations, it really has been misconstrued into a meaning right now, a meaning of was trying to divide people. And there's a lot of things today that's trying to divide people.
I think the Democrats hear what they hear on the news. A lot of people don't know things until they're educated or somebody tells them or they're influenced. And I think that the Democrats are standing in the way of a lot of good opportunities.
And do you think Trump's doing a good job this time?
Yes, I do. It's going to take time from, when he was in office last time, everything was going just great and everything. And then while he was out of the office the last 4 years, our store struggled, and we still, from the effects of it, don't know how much longer we're going to be able to stay in business.
I love Trump. I'm a Trumper, for sure.
How do you reckon he's doing in this time? How well is he doing currently?
How well is he doing?
This time?
I think he's doing great, and we need to let the man do his job. This country needs to get back to law and order. We need to get back to leading the world. And I'm definitely not a Democrat, and Democrats to me are the problem here in America.
Right, how do you feel about Trump?
Not a fan. Not a fan, and I think that it's an unfortunate thing that we've sort of lost our nation to somebody that is so not only a pedophile but a con man. It's a weird thing that our legacy has been gone to that.
I think Trump is a good man. I think he's really, truly trying to make America great again. A lot of his policies, he's really trying to make this country great again. He doesn't, he's 79 years old. He don't need the money. I believe his intentions are good, and he's doing the best job he can. And I think you're gonna see good things coming from his administration.
So if the South won the war, hardly speaking, and today that meant every state could have their individual rights, but it meant slavery was still here today, would you rather that outcome or the outcome that we have today?
Of course not. Of course not. If the South would have won a war, I'll tell you what, if the South would have won a war, slavery would have ended anyway. Slavery was in the process of ending before the Civil War even started.
A hypothetical situation. It's 2025, the South won, the Confederate States of America has been around for 100 and whatever years, and slavery's still here. Would that still have been worth it for the absolute protection of states' rights?
Yeah, I would think so.
Hi there, sir. What was the name?
Kelly Gregory.
Kelly, Aaron.
Aaron.
Pleasure to meet you, Kelly. So I'm here making a documentary on the history of the Confederacy.
Yeah, all my family fought in the Confederacy, my ancestors.
All of your family?
Yeah, all 4 sides of my great-great-great-grandfathers.
Can you talk to me about, I guess, your opinion of what happened in the war?
Well, my people, the Gregorys and the Grants, and Reynoldses and Clarks, they were all poor. They believed in what they were fighting for. They was fighting for their home. They didn't want an invasion. But it wasn't about slavery for them because they were slaves themselves. They were sharecroppers.
How many Confederate leaders opposed slavery?
Well, General Lee really wasn't for slavery. He was for Virginia. Either way, he would have fought for Virginia either way if they were on the side of the slavery or side of non-slavery.
But I guess, did he oppose it?
Did he oppose it? I would think so deep down. And so, Stonewall Jackson, he was opposed to it.
And do you think the flag has any connotations to racism?
Racism? I don't think so. I believe in my family. I have deep family roots, and I would support them now.
See a white person with a Confederate flag, you got a flat tire, he'll help you. And then you can see a white person with a Confederate flag, you got a flat tire, he's not gonna help you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Am I lying to you? You don't never know, you don't never know.
That's bad. Bro, if you see the Confederate flag, what do you think of the person flying the flag?
Man, I'm on both sides of the coin because I didn't grow up with people that would wear Confederate flags on the lawn, and that's just what they say, that's just their culture or their thing. But then I done seen people that wear it, or they know for a fact that they don't mess with anybody regardless of place.
It ain't about, it's like I say, it's racist, but it's always gonna be racist. So at the end of the day, it's more like a respect thing. You know what I'm saying? Like say if a white person comes to the hood, probably get his ass kicked. He said the wrong shit. You know what I'm saying?
So do you think black people can be racist to white people?
Yeah. It's hand in hand.
Larry, do you think black people can be racist to white people?
Can be what?
Do you think black people can be racist as well?
I know they can. I've had plenty of problems with black people. I wouldn't have them.
What's your relationship like today with black people?
Well, some black, I can get along with, but they come up with all this racial shit and white women and stuff, and I just think, I grew up in the old way.
Would you say you're racist?
Nope.
You wouldn't? Well, in your definition, Larry, what is a racist?
If you don't want to be around a black person. I got plenty of black friends.
But I guess You've got black friends, but you wouldn't let a black person date your daughter?
Sure what?
Would you say that's racist?
Well, it might be, but they won't now date my daughter.
And if a black man tried to speak to your daughter, how would that...
Probably end up killing.
Well, I asked him, how do you feel about interracial relationships? And he says, if my daughter was with a black man, I would kill him.
I'm surprised.
A wild statement.
A wild statement?
No.
And this is coming from who?
So this was a white man in his probably 60s or 70s.
80, you said between 70 and 80?
60 and 70s.
You can't keep your culture if you know what I'm saying? That's a perfect agenda for the New World Order. One race, one religion, one everything. But how's the best way to destroy a person? Mix the culture up. It's not. I think it's wrong, but if he wants to do it, that's his business. They have the freedom to do what they want. But that don't make me a hater because I believe that.
Well, why do you feel it's wrong? What do you think is wrong about that?
Why do you feel it's wrong?
Because you're mixing culture.
You think that's a bad thing?
Yeah, I think it is.
The day I moved here, we were out here and one of the neighbors up the street said the N-word in front of me and my mom like it was perfectly normal. And I told him he could leave the property and he's not to come back until he changes his attitude. That man changed his attitude though. So
fair enough. And I guess, have you ever been called homosexual slurs since you've been in?
Oh yes, 3 times by people. I mean, one man was in his 80s.
80s.
In the Walmart parking lot. It's been yelled out of a car and it was told to me in the food line.
Is the N-word still said much around in Virginia?
Oh, yes. But mainly in music and the people that feel they are allowed to say it. I mean, you can go down the road and you'll hear it in the music and everything. And I'm going, like, if somebody else did it, they'd be ready to fight. I mean, set the example. If you want to be treated with respect, you don't want to be associated with that, don't call yourself that.
If you saw someone call that someone else in public, what would your reaction be?
I'd be like, that's not necessary. You shouldn't call somebody that because that word is associated with race. And that is displaying, in my opinion, ignorance. That's ignorance. Calling somebody a derogatory name when you don't even know that person, you're showing your ignorance.
And Margie, what was life like for you growing up?
Oh, it was terrible. Life on this street, like this street, I didn't live here. The black man wasn't allowed in these houses. These are all white people's houses, all these houses. You didn't live in the white neighborhood, you lived in the black neighborhood.
And what would happen if a black person tried to go into that neighborhood?
Well, if they only went in there, they went in there to clean the houses. They didn't go in there for nothing else. It was terrible. Danville was real. You should go to the library too and look in the book.
Can you remember when that library or the museum was a whites-only library?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Matter of fact, we just passed the library coming from the doctor's office.
And we had a little black library.
Mama pointed it out.
The library we had was a house. And the lady used to work at it, Miss Daisy, because we had to go there to do our schoolwork. You know, if you need something from the library, you had to go there and get it. You couldn't go in the white library that's up here now where everybody can go now.
How much? What would you say to people who are flying that flag today and they say we fly it because it's our heritage?
What would I say? What
would you say to people that fly that flag today and say it's because of their heritage? Because there are some flags here.
Yeah, it is.
Today,
and the people still got the same stuff in them. The children, they was taught that, and they don't know any better. They don't try to know. It's still, This used to be a racist. I mean, hey, the blacks got back in the back. You didn't live in these houses.
What was the living conditions of black people then and white people? How different were the living conditions?
Oh boy, yeah, it was a lot different. I remember it rained and we couldn't get the house fixed, and it would rain and we had to put buckets down to catch the water. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh boy. We come up on the hard side.
And Marge,
It was rough.
coming up in your childhood, what is there anything that you'll just never forget in regards
I'll
to
never forget none of it. I went to jail 21 days for demonstration.
My mom was in the Civil Rights March.
When Dr. King came
Dr.
here.
King came through, it was called Bloody Monday.
Bloody Monday. You looked that up in the library.
Demonstrators shut down businesses, stopped traffic, and forced police to work double shifts. Desegregating Danville wasn't going to be an easy task. At some point, it had to break. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. visited the city in the spring of 1963 and gave Thurman Eccles, then 16, the inspiration to march.
It's like a general with the army. When the general shows up, he motivates the troops. He motivated people to go to jail and to do those things that stood up for that which is right.
In 1963, in Danville was when the major, massive protests happened here. Bloody Monday occurred when the Danville police were very violent. I mean, Martin Luther King Jr. was here several times, and he made the statement that the Danville police were some of the most violent he had seen. I mean, we have so much civil rights history here.
Bloody Monday. Bloody Monday.
No, I won't.
No, but
I won't hear. I was here when it happened.
Can you remember what? Can you remember what happened from back then?
Not much. Not much.
I guess what can you remember of that day and the impact that it had?
I remember seeing a picture in the paper where they hit them with the hose pipes. Hey, they were disobeying the law.
What was the law that they disobeyed? Can you remember?
Stay out of the streets, stay off the sidewalks and such. And they were told just to be calm and cool, and they wouldn't do it. They just kept stirring us up.
My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and there were 4 of us kids. So my mom was a housewife. My dad went out to work. That particular day, Mama was determined to go out and march. She refused to stay home. She was determined to go march because she wanted to bring forth some change. So she wanted to be a part of that group to bring some equality. So that particular day, that morning, because my dad knew that she wanted to go, he insisted that she didn't go. And he demanded that she stay home and continue to take care of us. But because she was so determined, when he left out to go to work, she called my grandmother and said, come with the kids, come and take care of the kids. I'm going to march. And she did. What I remember, later on that day, my dad got a call that my mom had been beaten and she was had been jailed. And
they beat all of us. I remember this boy, Bruce. His whole head was split open where the police had beat him with their stick. It looked like you could see Bruce's brain.
So my mom was beaten during the march.
They beat us everything.
By the police, and
they did everything to us.
Anyway,
this was a terrible place.
My mom came home. Well, she was jailed.
What was the charge?
What was the
I
charge?
guess it was disorderly conduct. I guess I don't know what they accused of us.
Anyway, when we seen my
you
mom,
wasn't allowed to touch them. You would have really spent in jail a long time. And we slept on an iron floor. They did not give us no cover, no nothing. We had to sleep on an iron floor in jail. I never forget that. This story I do remember. He said, get your black ass in, excuse me, get your black ass in the car, you black self. And he kicked me up in the car. I remember that good. I'll never forget that. It was, Danville was
So her face was bruised, and her eye was swollen, and her forehead, she still had the swelling on her forehead. And we, as little children, saw my mom, and we just screamed and cried. But we didn't have no idea or understood at that particular time what was going on. But but just the sight of our mom showing that she had been beaten, we didn't know the reason why. It just made us, I do remember screaming and saying what's happened, what was going on. My dad had to take us and explain to us what had happened.
Your husband at the time said, "Don't go."
Oh, yeah.
What, mate?
We was all there. I wasn't the only one, a lot of ladies, housewives. Oh, yeah, he told us don't go. And we could see the jail, which is towed down now, downtown. We could see the jail and see your husband trying to go get you out on bond. And I remember this white man said, "Get your black ass in this car." And kicked me up in the police car, kicked me. It was terrible.
March, what made you want to go that day?
Well, everybody was demonstrating, so I wanted to demonstrate too,
And you had told me how you wanted change, you were saying.
Yeah, oh yeah. This was Danville. We couldn't even drink out of water fountain, like it's 2 water fountains. And you better not put your head in that water fountain where the white man drank out of.
And if you did, what would happen?
You go jail if they caught you.
For drinking water?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. They didn't call you black then, they call you colored. You had a colored water fountain and you had a white colored water fountain. And you know what kind of drink out of.
And did they look the same?
Look the same water fountain.
And do you think much has changed today?
Oh, yeah. Good God.
Do you think racism in Virginia is still here today in 2025?
Of course. Like everybody needs to get along, get the flags down, put up American flag, because it's where you at. And everybody get along. That was back before I was born. All the history stuff, but there's a whole new world. So.
And have either of you experienced racism yourselves?
Oh, yeah, more so when I was younger.
Do you think there's still some change to be done?
Still some change. It's going to always be a little something.
Do you think there's racism here today?
Huh?
Do you think there's racism here today in Danville?
Do you think there's racism here
today?
today?
Definitely. Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, racism here. Oh, yeah.
And Karen, do you think someone's born racist?
Do I think someone is born
No.
racist? No. No one's born. Racism is taught.
They teach
so
them
most kids or adults, if they're adults now and they're racist, it's because they grew up in a racist household and they were taught racism.
Yeah, people are not born racist. They're taught. I remember being in first grade, and my best friend was Velma Miller. She was black, and I invited her to a birthday party. But some of my white friends' parents found out that she was coming and did not allow their kids to go to the birthday party. So it's definitely something that's taught. I mean, I think all kids are colorblind. They don't care. But once they get a little bit older, they listen to their parents, they see what's going on. And I mean, I think it's a lot better today.
You don't know nothing about racism. You couldn't take him and tell him about racism. He was taught that. Mm-hmm. See, they teach the older ones, taught them that. So that's all they know. You really can't fault the children.
That's right.
You got to fault the grown-ups. They did it. You put me and him together and we raised together, he don't know no difference. We don't know no difference. Because we wasn't taught that way.
Larry, I want to know, when you was growing up yourself, when you was about early teenagers, late teenagers, did you have I guess, a disliking for coloured people when you was growing up?
Well, I had a bunch of fights with them, but all I can say, I didn't have no problem with them, but I didn't do much dealing with them.
What were your parents like, Larry?
You what?
What was your parents like?
Well, I moved away from home when I'm 9 years old.
You was 9?
Yeah, 9 years old.
Why did you move away?
Because I stayed in trouble with my daddy and stuff like that. So we just didn't get along.
And I guess, have you ever had a black girlfriend?
Nope. Never had one.
Did you not find them attractive?
Never wanted one.
Why?
Never wanted one.
It's not your preference?
Ain't my preference. I think a black ought to be with the black, and the white ought to stay with the white.
Do you think the whites should stay with whites and blacks should stay with blacks?
Right, and the Mexicans stay with the Mexicans, and all of them. That's the way I feel about it.
I'm currently on Monument Avenue in Richmond, Virginia. This street was known for having Confederate soldiers' monuments all down the road, which was taken down in 2020, shortly after the BLM protests and George Floyd's incident. However, Arthur Ashe remains behind me, which represents a change within Richmond. The monuments may have gone, but the conversations still continue.
How'd you guys feel when they took the monuments down in Richmond too?
Pissed me off. I mean, that was a beautiful park, man. It's like bullshit.
It was like a death. You know, I mean, it really was because, I mean, it was beautiful. I mean, just not historical. It was just beautiful. I mean, the trees during fall, and I mean, it was just, and the monuments were spectacular. I mean, they were.
Look at the artwork they got done in now.
Well, they're resting on.
They had a sewage place. And
we saw it.
Yeah.
We flew a drone over it and we saw it. Yeah.
Yes. Why do they only target Southern statues and monuments and not the Northern? They're still reminding people of the Civil War.
That's a good point.
I mean, I've always wondered that. Why did they not go through the North and take all those monuments?
Because they were fighting the war for them.
Just like Charlottesville, they took that one and the other one's still sitting somewhere, but they melted it down. Made derogatory artwork out of it. Come on.
The unfortunate thing is they were beautiful. They were beautiful statues, beautifully done. They were put up at a time to really hammer home Jim Crow and to hammer home that there was a legitimate legacy of the Civil War that wasn't about hate and wasn't about enslaving people. Them being taken down, it's unfortunate because they were beautiful statues. It was a beautiful area. I had never been there, hadn't seen it. But I think that in order to move forward, you can't have symbols of hate celebrating the dehumanization of people and think that we're going to move forward as a nation in a positive way.
Behind me is the White House of the Confederacy here in Richmond. This was home to Jefferson Davis in between 1861 and 1865 when the country was at war with itself. Key decisions were made in between these walls behind me. Today it's now turned into a museum, offering an insight into a deeply divided insight into America's past.
Grant was coming up from Petersburg, he was coming into Richmond. The Confederate cabinet and Jefferson Davis had to flee. They left by train. There was a a railway called the Richmond and Danville Railroad, and they came directly to Danville. They stayed here for 8 days. They were in Danville for 8 days. Jefferson Davis stayed here. There's a table upstairs you'll see where he wrote what's called the last proclamation of the Confederacy. While they were in Danville, they found out that Lee had surrendered to Grant. So a lot of, important events happened, and that's why we got the moniker, the last capital of the Confederacy. Because of all of those events, they are significant events. Civil War is definitely a huge part of our history, and it's something that we will continue to interpret here. Eventually, they stayed here for 8 days, but they did leave when they found out that Grant had surrendered. And they continued further south, and Jefferson Davis was eventually captured a few weeks later.
That's funny. I believe you had a Confederate flag at one point in time outside the museum.
We did. So there was a Confederate flag flying on that monument there, amazingly enough. It was eventually taken down, which was certainly the right decision. Because the Confederate, any type of flag, if you're flying a flag, you're making a statement. It's one of the ways to make a major statement is to fly a flag. The museum and the city owns this property, and they did not want to make that statement. So they took that down. The proper place for a flag like that would be inside of a museum where you can have the appropriate context, where you can interpret it properly. And that's what they did. We had an exhibit inside the museum. Now that did cause a lot of controversy. Some people in town, in the area, thought that they shouldn't take the flag down because this is considered the last capital and so forth. And we've tried to educate people on why it was taken down. I mean, it's a symbol of oppression and horror to so many people. Why would you put half of the population of Danville, why would you subject them to that,
All right, sir. What was the name?
Anthony.
Anthony. Aaron, pleasure to meet you. So Anthony, the reason I'm here is I'm making a documentary on the history of the Confederacy and racism here in Virginia. I guess, how do you feel, Anthony, when you see that flag?
Yeah, just a flag. To me, it's just a flag. I mean, I knew about the war and all that stuff, what happened back then and there, but it doesn't bother me.
Do you think Virginia is still a racist place today?
I said it's so-so. I can't really say. Some places yes, and some places no.
And what's your opinion on the Confederate flag? Do you have any opinion on it whatsoever?
I mean, if they lost the war, they lost the war. I mean, ain't no need of the hate.
When you see a Confederate flag, what does it make you feel like?
Like angry. I mean, it is hate. It is in no way heritage. It's like pulling for the team that lost the Super Bowl after the Super Bowl, just saying, I fully support the losers. Well, yeah, okay, then you're a loser.
What is the real historical significance of the flag?
To me, it represented the Confederacy, the flag, and the Confederacy was for slavery, whereas the Union was not. And that, to me, like I said, that to me represents the Confederacy, the Southern soldiers that fought. We lost a bunch in the South and we lost a bunch in the North too. It was human lives that were lost. Back then, I don't agree with what the slave owners did to the slaves. I really don't agree with the abuse and everything, because that was cruel to human beings. That was a human being. I mean, I don't even treat animals that way. I mean, I don't believe in that. I think if the South had done it differently, where, like I said, you didn't have the ones that were abusive and cruel to them, I think it would have been a lot better. And the flag to them might symbolize that to them. But nowadays, if you look at it, we're all basically a slave because you got to work and pay your bills for that money. The South wanted to keep things the way they wanted it. They wanted slaves to do the cotton and the plantations and everything, and the Union didn't. And even today, our country is still divided. not necessarily by slavery or what happened back then. We are still divided. We will never be a one nation. And I think that's what people are forgetting. Like the Bible says, love thy neighbor. You don't have to socialize with them or whatever, but just friendly love. I mean, that flag, as long as I know, has been up there for forever. And like I said, when I look at it, yes, it reminds me of the Civil War. And we just have to learn from history. We can't keep going that way. For me, it just represents, it was the Confederacy soldiers to separate the Union from the soldiers, the Union and the Confederate. I look at it as like football teams. You got your colors over here for this team, you got your colors over here for that team. It's like the Democrats and the Republicans. They don't agree on much. And back then, like I said, it's history. We'll never be able to wipe it off the books. But all we can do is learn from the history and not let it bring forward into today's society.
When I've been in Danville, one thing I'm realising is you've almost got like a black side of town, you've got a white side of town. Is that, am I right in saying that?
You were.
I think, is it the west side, which is pretty much white?
And we got no west side. Yeah, you can say it's the west side, but then call it the west side. You have to saying the west side stay in the white. I mean, the white stay in the west side.
Yeah, yeah. Is that true?
Yeah. I mean, it's still mixed, but the high percentage probably white.
You think on the back of that, there's still problems with racism here in Danville, Virginia today?
Yeah, I think there are. I mean, there's problems with racism everywhere in the United States, and I think Danville has certainly come a long way, and much more so than so many other places. We have a very racially balanced city council. Mayor's a black man, but there's still things, people still like black people still, some of them are reluctant to come here to the museum because they remember when it was a whites only library,
Can you tell me a bit about that, Sonia? About when that happened and what was happening?
Right. So the museum, the Sutherland Mansion, of course, has the Civil War history. But when it was when the Sutherlands died, the house was eventually sold to the city of Danville, and it was used as the whites only library for 44 years, almost 45 years. So it was I think at one time there was a sign that said like the Confederate Memorial Library or something along those lines.
Can you remember when that library or the museum was a whites only library?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And we had a little black library.
Mama pointed it out.
The library we had was a house. And the lady used to work at it, Miss Daisy.
I moved back to Danville. We left when I was
13.
No, we left when I was 7.
Yeah,
right after. Yeah, we left
because
when
I
was
didn't
7.
want my children.
Mama
to come
moved
up
back.
and
We grew up in D.C., Washington D.C. Mama took us to Washington D.C. after her and my dad separated. So I grew up in Washington D.C. all my life, most of my life. Me and my sisters and brothers. Mom moved back. She wanted to move back home in '78. She wanted to come back to Danville because this is her home. This is where she was born, and she wanted to live. I didn't want to come back. I came back in '93.
Why didn't you want to come back, Karen?
Well, I tell you what, when I came back, I knew I wasn't going to stay in Danville. So I live in Greensboro. Because Danville appeared to be the same place.
It is.
It was. It didn't seem to be a lot of change here when I moved back in '93. I'd experienced a lot of, I could see a lot of racist,
Have you ever experienced racism yourself?
Yes, in prison. I've been beat 3 times, called in segregation. And, the COs in there take advantage of you, and they all white. And the reason they do, they try to make you, they detox you from what you could read, what you can learn, what you can see, because you can't see. It's all barbed wire. You don't see nothing. You're out the world. So you so enclosed, they feel, not power, just a lot of control. I could bully you. I could take from you. Your food depends when I feed you. You know what I'm saying? I'm a bigger parent than your parent because I got a job where I got to protect you and let you be bad. Like, that's the worst. Like, when I was beaten in there, handcuffed on and stuff like that. every word was I was a nigga. You belong in here. You belong. You're supposed to be dead. Take my name tag and take it where you want. Because after you give it, I'm gonna have some more beat you. So there's no stop to it. I don't think out of every 24 hours, 1 to 10 people that's in segregation in the whole life for fighting, having contraband, anything, it fucked my confidence up. It made me feel like I wasn't born to live an eternal life out here. I'm just borrowing this motherfucker so I could grow up, go to college, you know, do the right thing, but you know what I'm saying, make the right choices, you know, keep the right decision and end up broke, dead, you know what I'm saying? No name, like, not, made me lose, like, made me feel like I ain't got no ground on me.
Aaron, would
you call that and beat like that? It means I ain't got no ground. Like my confidence, done.
As people of color, when you see that flag, what would be your assumption of the person flying that flag?
Somebody like glorifies slavery. Like no human being should ever been anybody's slave. I don't care what nationality is. If you don't like that person, fine. You don't have to like them, but you don't have to enslavement them neither and glorify it.
No, for sure.
And I'm thinking that with that flag, you know, it's a lot of like people saying, oh, they don't like black people. You know what I'm saying? Oh, don't you go there, no shop there because they prejudice. Right. You know what I'm saying? And it's not good for the business also. Then for the community, you ride by American flag would do just fine. With that flag, it makes people think different.
Right.
Yeah, like they're out to get us.
And what would you say? So I spoke to a man today, and he was saying, my family's been in the war. That's the reason I fly it. So it's almost to respect my family who are now gone, who fought for us. I guess what would you say to those people?
Well, what war was his family fighting for? Slavery or freedom, you know?
That's a good question.
No. Why would you ever want to fight for any man of any race to be white, black, Mexican, Puerto Rican? I don't care. No race should be a slave. So why would you glorify anybody fighting to keep a person in enslavement?
Haley's and related families.
What's in that book?
It's mostly my family history,
That's
but
cool.
It branches off from that, and it has that's how I knew about the sale of my great grandfather's estate for $12. They have all of his sales and all the lands that were granted from England.
After the South lost the war, and the South gave up their slaves, the North kept their slaves for years after. It was very hypocritical, and sad.
And think about it. A Confederate black troop was not segregated. He got the same pay, but the North was segregated less pay. What does that tell you? I mean,
there were more freed slaves running around in the South at the beginning of the war than there were in the North.
General Stonewall Jackson, he started a school to educate slaves, to teach them to read and write. So he was very torn. He was a very religious and faith-based, godly man. And he was torn between the ideology of slavery. And he did, like I said, he formed schools and he taught slaves to read and write. And he really was, he was a good part of helping them.
Let's just say there were slave owners that were Confederate generals that didn't treat their help bad. And when the Yankees come down here, they'll tell you that ain't so. They marched onto these plantations, and the plantations, they had it all figured out where to make it look like airfall.
All of his family were blacksmiths.
A blacksmith, yeah.
And he ended up being a nurse before he got killed. This is the only picture. This is his brother, Christopher. He survived, and his grandson knew he was dying, and he come down 2 weeks before he died and give me this picture and and he told me some stories, and I wrote the stories down.
I'd love the opportunity to talk to these folks and just explain to them what we're about and what the history is truly about. And but sometimes we get it, but actually not that often. Not that often.
Because I'll be honest, when I only found out about the Sons of Confederate 48 hours ago, prior to interviewing the guy who's now too old to be in the club, and when I read online, it almost a bit grey in the sense that no one really knows what the organisation stands for.
Wow.
That was just on the research that I was doing online. Like, it's not very clear. Like Google, forums, no one really understands, I guess.
Yeah. Well, that's really what we are. Like I said, to wear this patch, you have to be a direct descendant of a Confederate veteran, and we're honoring them. Like, we're honoring our ancestors, just like if you had ancestors in other wars, World War II, World War I, Vietnam. You'd honor them. We're honoring our Confederate ancestors that were veterans.
Question, but
No such thing.
are there any black people in the
Yes. Yeah.
That's a good
They
question.
are. That's a good question. That is definitely not a dumb question. Yeah. There are. Yeah. They understand the history. They understand the history.
Blacks were, if they went to the cities at night, they were slaughtered. It's a fact.
And why would those slaves want to leave if they were being
Well, a lot of slaves
fed and
stayed.
clothed and
Yeah.
I mean, there's family, My grandma written books on it, I mean, it just, everything gets twisted,
Yeah.
And then you're talking about, like most of my family were poor on my dad's side. Some were, my dad quit school in 6th grade. So they act like they had it bad. Look at the sharecroppers. They were 90% white. I mean, come on. But they harp on one thing and don't tell the whole damn story.
Do you think like white people are being targeted in the country right now?
Oh, hell yeah.
Hey man, got an X right here. I mean, it's serious.
It's all on purpose. It's communist. That's what's doing it. The division. It's communism. New World Order. It's all about that. You got to destroy a culture, destroy a country to bring in a New World Order.
Tell them that story about that black girl come up here one day and wanted to know why we were up here. And you told her, she, well, that's not what they told us.
I mean, they're right to their opinion, but tell me that ain't indoctrinated. The schools used to be local schools, and the federal government got involved in the 60s. I remember when all that was going on.
Why do you think they got involved?
Indoctrination.
I guess indoctrination of what, I guess?
They took prayer out, they took the Ten Commandments out. Why? Because the people running this world are anti-Christian, and that's fact.
After the whole Charlie Kirk thing that happened, do you guys feel a little more nervous being out here?
Yeah, we've been all over the place, and people trying to run us over, pull guns. I mean, you wouldn't believe the stuff, but I'm not backing down from nobody.
So I'm finding two people who fly that flag, because I've spoken to, I would say, tens of people. And I feel like there's people who have ancestors, so to speak, who have fought for that war. But then you have people who have no idea what that flag means. And I feel like my interaction with those two people are massively different. So I interviewed a son of the Confederate yesterday, and I guess his message and the way he spoke about the flag was completely different to, I guess, someone who has no attachment or heritage or any family who's fought for that flag. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm experiencing so far in this exploration is, when it comes to these people who speak about the heritage and they do have a little bit of, I guess, connection to the flag through family ties, I just can't, for a generalisation, it's hot for me exploring it. I'm not seeing that at the moment. But I am definitely seeing, I feel like, racist with the flag, based on my own engagements. But from what I'm seeing, I don't think it is a generalisation.
Fair. Okay.
Again, that's just.
What are you saying? You're seeing some that sort of seem clean, but they're just like, this is part of our heritage.
I met someone yesterday. I went to his house, and his great-great-grandfather fought in the war. He had numerous amount of books, a lot of memorabilia from that time. And if I'm transparent, obviously I'm a man of colour, and in certain places I'm feeling uncomfortable when I speak to these people.
Sure.
But there was a handful of individuals who had that heritage, and I didn't feel uncomfortable. And their responses from someone making this documentary, I would say, wasn't racist. So I guess I don't feel like it is a generalisation, but I can see at the same time where the connotations to slavery and what it's all about is a bit dark.
I mean, it is, and I mean, I guess what I find interesting about it is that, but there's still the choice that they're waving a very specific flag of the Confederacy. It was a battle flag. It was specifically used, and then it was co-opted to be a racist symbol. If it's heritage, then there's 1,000 other flags that they could wave. They could wave the Confederate States flag. But they chose specifically to wrap their heritage up in a flag that's become a symbol of hate. And that's a problem.
Yeah.
So even if it is heritage, and their version of heritage is also this warped sort of thing. I'm a newcomer to the South, relatively. There is language and literature and food and all of these other things within their heritage, within their legacy, that they can be proud of, and yet they still stomp down and say, no, we want to still fight for slavery. So I find that weird.
This gun was supposedly dropped in the Battle of Gettysburg.
Jesus.
Feel how heavy it is. They had to carry this and the backpack.
Jesus.
With those heavy balls.
So this was used.
Yeah, this comes from Gettysburg. This come from the Springfield Army.
We heard they made some of the guns around here.
In Chatham, right? In Chatham.
Yeah, they made some. There was lots of independent machinists that made guns. This was this is a Colt Army. And these were a smaller version. And most of these guns were bought by the parents. And it's a scene of a bank robbery. A stagecoach robbery on the cylinder.
No way.
Yeah. Very few of them have it, you can see. But these guns were mostly given by the parents to their sons going off to war as a extra piece of protection. And they called them pocket Colts, so they could carry them in their pocket. And if they gun jammed or they was on their last leg, you had your 6 shots, you could maybe get to come home. That's worth a whole lot of money too.
Does seeing these, bringing these guns out and these relics out, make you feel like a certain type of pride about the South?
I just love this stuff. I think it's mostly my family. I heard stories about my family and it just, I don't know, it
makes you
yeah, it does.
There's still racism here within Virginia today?
Absolutely. You just have to go down to Danville Power and you can see the way black people are treated here. It's terrible. And that's city sanctioned. The exhausting sort of process that people have to go through, even within city structures, is incredibly burdensome. And this is a town that had mills, had all that sort of work, and the mills initially didn't allow black people to work there. It was a way to sort of recruit white people in that they got to stomp down on somebody else. But when the mills left, when all the industry left, who was left were those that couldn't afford to get out. And so there's a heavy poor population here, majority black, and they're treated without kindness.
I used to play with white kids, and then when the families see that there are other white kids come, they'll pull that child away just to play with the white kids instead of me. So, but when I was young, I didn't understand it. But as I got older, I'm like, oh, okay, because my mom and dad had never really believed in us disrespecting no race,
Do you think there is a problem with racism here in Virginia?
I'm sure it is. Some. It's not as much as people think. I think it's It's kind of overrated.
Do you think there's still racism here in Virginia?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And what makes you say that?
Just my ears and eyes, I can see the Confederate flag being flown in a lot of places. I hear the comments. A lot of it stems from right here, and Virginia is the capital of the Confederacy from historic times.
How do you feel about the flag?
Huh?
How do you feel about the Confederate flag?
The Confederate flag, I don't see it as a threat. I just see it as a historical symbol of the history of America. I grew up in a Jewish family, and I keep that hush definitely around here.
What would you say to anyone who's of color or gay and they want to move to Danville?
Don't come to Danville. I think the casino should boycott Danville because of what happens here. I think that it's wrong for them to open its doors knowing that they still celebrate the Confederacy on government buildings in downtown.
And do you regret moving here?
No, because my mom bought this property and needed help, and we might have to build our own wall to wall out the rest of Danville, but I like this place and I like my mom, and I don't regret that.
I was wanting to shut my store down. If the Democrats would have got in office last time, this last term, I would have closed down and probably moved back to Seattle. But all the time the Democrats was in office, I kept my store open just for hope that we could get Republicans back in to straighten it out.
And can you show me some of the things that you sell, Rick? What kind of things do you sell?
Well, we sell a lot of switchblade knives. We sell stun guns. We sell exotic knives. We sell phone cords, phone chargers. We make our own flowers. I know it says in so many stars and stripes, but I thought the Confederate flag was one of the original flags.
No, I guess it was, well, it wasn't really the Confederate States didn't exist till the Civil War, I guess.
A lot of people don't really understand what that flag means. I'm getting a lot of mixed opinions and thoughts for what that flag stands for. Some people are saying racism, some people are saying heritage. There's no real definition, I guess, of what that flag means.
So that flag, I just think it should be a United States flag. I can't really explain it no more than one flag.
One flag.
One country, one flag per country. That's how I look at it.
How did you feel about when the museum or the Sutherland Mansion took down the Confederate flag?
Well, my wife's in the daughters of the Confederacy. That's where they held their meetings. And I was in the Sons of the Confederacy, and that's where we had meetings there too. I don't think it was right. I mean, that's a memorial. That's a memorial to the Confederacy, and I ought to leave the flag up.
I guess, was there an uproar within the city? Sorry, it was. Was there an uproar amongst the town when that happened?
Not much.
They want to sort of imprint their version of history, and it's like their version of history is warped, and it's not based on fact. It's based on these sort of emotions that they have about how they should have been treated, and that slaves were actually, it was a good thing for them, and we brought them Christianity, and it's that sort of messaging that it's like, I don't see much of a bridge there. I mean, they've been, for 10 years, they've come out. By the way, majority of them, with the exception of one that I know is actually a Danville resident, drive over an hour to get here. And when they've been asked why they don't flag in their own communities, they're like, we don't want to be known about that in our own communities. So they're willing to come here and mess with this turf, piss on this ground, but not willing to do it at home. So it's like, it's not about legacy. It's not about any of that stuff. It is absolutely a message of hate. And the Q flag, that the one flag, so the guy that we call the rooster, because he struts around, is not just Q for QAnon, but there was also a group of mercenaries that were part of the Confederacy. So he's flying a flag specifically about a group that went out to murder and malign and do all that stuff, sanctioned under the Q flag. So he's flying that flag specifically to send a message. And I think people just think it's Q, and it is partly that. But yeah, because
I've never seen that flag before.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you can look into them. I forget what their actual real title was, but it's something with a Q.
What is that though?
Oh, this is Quantrill Raiders flag.
I don't even know what that is.
1860s, Missouri.
Okay.
Well, you had Red Legs from Kansas before the war started would rape and kill women and children.
Okay.
All right. Quantrill's from Missouri. And my ancestor, Jesse James, all them, their family and James has moved out west at that time.
Okay.
And they're from Virginia. The James is kin to me. I'm a Randall.
Oh, cool.
Well, anyway, that's what that is. It's a guerrilla warfare flag. If you bring people in, your culture gets destroyed. Just like all these Yankees coming down here, it's all planned to destroy the Southern culture. That's all it is. I mean, think about it.
Are there a lot of Yankees coming down here?
Oh, heck. Shit. 9 out of 10 people in Virginia are damn Yankees.
Really?
But we got good ones too. A lot of them defend us, you know.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, I'm not against other people, but when you start going, just like if we go to another country, if you influx people, your culture's gone. It's natural. You don't have to have an army invasion. Go look through history with invasions. It's an invasion. That's all I can say.
So your ancestors from the South, but you're from the
My
North?
ancestors are from Virginia, yes.
Okay. Is there not a conflict in your head that you grew up in the North and you're like waving the Confederate, well, not waving the Confederate, but wearing the Confederate flag, I guess?
We're honoring the Confederate
Yeah,
flag,
yeah, yeah.
is what you mean?
Yeah.
No, there's really no conflict. I mean, there's ancestors from our organization all over the country, all over the world. We have ancestors actually in Germany, so Australia. So yeah, I mean, we're ancestors. So what our generations did after the war, you know, they moved to different states. Some moved up north, some moved out west, some moved to Europe. I do get some people tell me, "Wow, but you were born here, but you were raised in New York, and you still have that ideology about the Confederate flag." And the only thing I could say, the most important thing about our organization is what we represent, what this patch represents. We're honoring our ancestors.
Are you for the Confederacy or was you against it?
If you would have been born in that time and you lived here, and your information would have been scanty at least, you'd have been told that Virginia has been invaded, which it had. When they came out of D.C. up to Bull Run and got shot out of hell, they had to go back, and they could say Virginia was attacked, and you wouldn't know any different. I mean, you ain't got no TV. You ain't gonna know. You're gonna fight for them, you know? Probably. Big Brooks does a lot of things.
And I guess, why do you feel the people still fly the flag today? Why do you think people still have that flag today?
Oh, I don't know. I don't want to fight the Civil War anymore. It's over. Yeah. I don't know why they got it. I don't know.
Do you think it has any connotations to racism?
Do what now?
Do you reckon it has any links to racism, the flag today?
Did it have any
links, connections to racism?
To racism? Oh, well, it might. I don't know. That person, it was maybe. I don't know. Yeah, I told you I didn't know anything.
This is a Confederate sword.
Oh yeah, it's a sword bayonet. It went on the musket, and you could shoot, and it didn't hit your bar. Hit you. See how it drops down.
So, what makes this a Confederate sword? Was it used?
Say again?
What makes it Confederate?
Oh, because it fits an Enfield musket. Enfields were supplied by the British to the Confederacy because they really was on the Confederate side. The British were. I mean, they didn't like the Union. They didn't like us.
They didn't know.
You know, Revolutionary War. We kicked them out. So if the Confederacy was going to fight the Union, they'd help the Confederacy, and they did. And that's a sword. But it didn't get used. A fellow got it for me down on the beach.
No way.
And I don't have a musket though.
Past is the past. Leave the past in the past. You know what happened? You can't keep dwelling what happened all them years ago, man. You know, times done changed, people done changed. You know, people still got hatred in their heart, but that's just the work of the devil, man. You know, people gonna be evil in this world. That's just part of life. You know, you gotta deal with it. But you know, you got genuine. I don't look at people, you know, by the race. As long as they open me with open arms to respect me as a person, that's all that matters.
Well, just if you're talking about the rebel, I always thought it was, heritage not hate, but I wish, everybody could get along. Like I said, I have the rebel stuff in my store, and I don't see it as being racism. But maybe other people do. Maybe it's, influenced, or maybe that's how they feel. But I don't feel the racism of it. I have no racism myself.
Do you believe the South will rise again?
No. I mean, we're all human beings. We all bleed red, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all humans. I mean, I've done got to the fact when I'm in my older age, I like helping animals more than I do people, because animals don't have a voice. And I much rather help animals.
I think it's fair to say, I guess, the slaves didn't have a voice.
No, they didn't. And when they revolted, I mean, I'm proud that they stood up for what they wanted, for equal treatment and everything, just like the women's rights. Women wasn't treated equally either, and they had to fight for their rights. But I think it's a better way to do it than violence.
And one thing we've heard as well, there's a heavy white supremacist presence here in Virginia.
Oh, yes. I mean, I think it's all over the Southeast. I think it's anywhere you see a church that you see white people coming out those doors, it is pushing forward that white supremacist opinion.
How do you reckon that can change? And do you think someone's born with this kind of hate?
No, I don't believe anyone's born to this kind of hate. I believe people take the easy way out, and people who look like me go and say, oh, it's easier for me to not stand up against it, to not have an opinion on it, and just go through my life the way that it is instead of trying to make things change. As a white person, I think it's important for white people to admit that in their life they have been taught or experienced feelings of being racist towards someone, and they have to fight against that and change that and get rid of that in themselves. And it's not going to change until all white people admit that to themselves and work to change that.
I think a lot of white people are still just deeply racist. Everybody, I'm racist to some degree. I work every day to try and not be, but I did grow up in an era where we were still, the lost cause, as I was telling you, was still part of the atmosphere.
And one thing they said about you guys, I guess, as a collective was, because I asked that question as well, like I was thinking, why is there no black people on that side?
Yeah.
And their reasoning and justification for that was, he goes, there's probably a lot of white guilt on that side.
What a white guilt from our side or from their side?
From your guys' side. It was their reasoning for why they feel there's no black people.
Maybe. I don't know, maybe.
I think that in this country right now, Jews are probably hated, maybe the most.
Why?
Boy, that's a deep subject. For the actions of Israel right now, what they're doing, but I think that they had to do what they had to do. But the Jewish, there are people, the Ashkenazi race, and this is coming from a Jewish guy, have taken over the Jewish name. I call them Ginos. You got rhinos, I call them Ginos, Jew in name only. And they do things around the world purposely, I believe, to give all Jews a bad name. I think that's part of the plan. There's always been hate towards Jews, but I think there's a group of Jews, their names are Jewish, but they're not in a synagogue, they're not practicing, and they're doing some pretty evil things on this planet, which entails everybody conjuring hate for all Jews.
If you were to diagnose one reason for why racism is still so prevalent in the U.S., would you say it's a lack of education?
I would. I do. I think so. I just think some people will never change, of course. They will never get out of their mindset where they're just seeped in racism, and they're, I guess, afraid of people who look a little differently than they are. I totally believe in education. I think that once, and I've seen it happen to me, and I've seen it happen to other people, once they learn the truth, once they are educated, then it changes them. And I just think that that's kind of but we need more education. The problem is getting them into a space where they're, because so many people don't want to be educated. You know, they'd rather kind of go about their day believing what they believe, and then, you know, but gosh, I mean, it just changes people's, you know, it changes people's minds and it opens their hearts.
Do you have the same disliking for Indians as you do blacks?
Nope.
So I guess, could we be friends?
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you a question. If an Indian person tried to speak to your daughter, how would that make you feel? Would it be the same as if a black man did?
Yep. They like to push your luck in prison, and they look at you, and that's the way it is.
Larry, do you think your experience with African Americans has made you the way you are?
Nope.
So if you never had any encounters with black people in prison, would you still feel the same way?
I don't know how I'd feel, I really don't.
Do you ever regret joining the Klan?
Huh?
Do you regret joining the Klan when you did?
Yeah.
Were these used in the Civil War? Or?
Yeah. A lot of them were. They come in a canister. I got some books out there. I was gonna make me a new canister. And there was a wooden sabot on the bottom, and then you had your balls with rope tied around it, and another wooden block, and balls and a wooden block, and they wrapped them rope and tar. And they put them in a cannon, and when they come out, they would kind of be blazing. The tar would catch on fire, and it'd separate.
That'll do a lot of damage.
A lot of damage. That's what got most of them.
What were these made out of?
Lead.
Lead?
Some of them were made out of iron. Depends on how much the Confederacy was so broke they would make them out of anything. You know. Some people are headstrong, believe what they're told. Just don't believe what someone has told you. Find out for yourself about the flag and about the Confederates and the Confederate people. Don't go on what somebody told you or social media or something like that. Do your own research.
I said thank you.
All right.
That was amazing.
Thank you for letting us in your home, showing all this. This is cool. I've never seen anything like this in my life. This is awesome.
All right. I don't really know how to answer that.